Phase out the system. Empower yourself. Grow food at home.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Grow Food at Home podcast, episode 3. I'm your host, Jack Sandquist. And here at the Grow Food at Home podcast, we are striving for an abundant, sustainable lifestyle. That is our intention. So if it is yours as well, this is definitely the place for you. Very exciting. We are putting our focus there to hopefully manifest a future of abundance and sustainability. Cool. So today we are discussing my top 5 favorite fruit trees here in South Florida. Now, these are the 5 fruit trees if I had to choose 5 trees out of all the fruit trees, these would be the 5 I would put in the ground. And this is the criteria for why. It needs to grow well. It needs to grow great. It needs to be resilient. It needs to not have any issues for the most part. That's number 1. Number 2 is it needs to produce heavy. It needs to be productive. It needs to bear fruit. So that's that simple. It's got to grow well. It's got to produce well. Number 3, it's got to be high in nutrients. It's got to fulfill our needs as humans. If we wanted to just live on on carbs or just fill our stomachs, to the max, we'd just plant a bunch of yucca. So yucca's great, but we need a little more, nutrient content in our lives for longevity. So number 4 is the last of the criteria. Is it needs to taste good. It needs to taste delicious. It needs to be scrumptious. So that's my criteria. It needs to grow well. It needs to produce well. It needs to have a high nutrient content, and it needs to be delicious. So this is what I took into account when I was choosing these 5 trees. So I'm really excited because this is the list. This is the top. This is definitely what I go with. I thought about it for a while. It wasn't easy. I had to leave some heavy hitters out, but this is the 5. Now I will say this definitely doesn't go for everywhere else in the world. This isn't the list I would do for, if I lived in Oregon or wherever, And also, even in subtropical, there's probably climate differences in an area of Costa Rica where some of these won't do well. I know that's a fact, for some of these. There might be, in Hawaii, there might be a better tree that just does its thing. That would make the list and leave one of these out. So this isn't across the board by any means. It's definitely not perfect, but I will say I have planted many, many trees and observed many, many trees. And these are the 5 I go with. So to get right into it, the first one I would choose, and also I want to mention, for these 5, we could only plant these 5. All the other fruit trees are out of it. We could plant as many as we want of these 5. I think that's important to note. So it's not like we can only put one in the ground. That's all we got. We could plant several of each. Okay? So, cool. So number 1 on my list, without a doubt, would have to be mango. It's just so good. I mean, we have the best varieties here in Florida, I'd say. I haven't been to India or anywhere like that, but we are hooked up as far as variety goes. So these mangoes grow great here. I don't know if you've driven around and noticed, but there's mangoes in all these old, towns in South Florida. Mangoes in every yard because they grow great. They produce well. They produce every year. Some you'll hear that sometimes mangoes have an on year and sometimes they have an off year. Like a lot of fruit trees, it's on and off. But for the most part, man, they produce every year. And if you had enough varieties, you would be littered in mangoes every summer, which is a wonderful thing. So nutrient content, it's super good for you. You can look it up. It is high in sugars, but they're good sugars. They're not processed sugars. And number 4, they taste delicious. So, I mean, like when people ask me what's a tree that does well, and they want my opinion on like what tree they should get. I tell them mango. I'm like, mango will produce great. It's probably not the best pick for someone who's only down here in the wintertime, because they produce like June and July. So they wouldn't be here when it's fruiting. But if you live here full time, I mean, for sure mangoes. I will say, a mango expert told me one time that mangoes don't do so hot west of the turnpike. So I don't know if you're not from Palm Beach County, Broward County area, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But that's important to note. Like, you need to be kind of by the coast for it to be kind of like super resilient, like plant it and forget about it type tree, like I'm talking about. So I will say they might have issues like anthracnose, and like some of these issues might exist if you're setting up your food paradise, out west, like in the middle of the state. So it's just important to know. It's not like a 100% sure thing, and it never is when you're dealing with nature. So anyways, that's something to know. But I mean, my friend Matt, he has probably like 60 mango trees, something like that. He has a ton of mangoes. It's this big agroforestry system at his new place on the other coast. He said he planted them. He didn't even water them in. He just literally mulched them every now and again. Obviously manages the space, but he says they just do their thing. Like, and he's pumping out mangoes. It's only like a 4-year-old operation, and he has insane abundance of mangoes. He hasn't even watered them. So that's super impressive. So number 1 is mango. Gotta have it. Number 2, I had to do it, is jackfruit. Jackfruit is so delicious. If you haven't had it ripe, like the actual fruit, it is so good. It's like juicy fruit bubble gum. And, a lot of people know jackfruit because it's like in vegan restaurants. It's like a meat alternative, which is cool, which is another, way to use it. It's multi-use, which is cool. But the fruit itself is amazing. So you could eat the fruit ripe. You could cook it like pulled pork, right? Over a fire. You could do it big. And you could also use the seeds. You could eat the seeds. You could boil it. You could roast it. I've had it both ways. Very delicious. It's kind of like potato-y. It's like a dried I don't know how to describe it. It's so good though. It's like you peel the shell and you eat the seeds. So you could they're like 50-pound fruits. I mean, like they're like 20, 30, 40, 50, they're huge fruits. They feed a lot of people, and there'll be 20 up in the tree, and over the summer, they produce. So jackfruit is for sure on there, not just because it's my name, but because it does the trick. It does the job. It grows well. You plant a jackfruit seedling, it'll just take off. It'll be bigger than you in 1 year. Kind of unbelievable, so they grow great. They produce well, and they're huge fruits. I mean, you could feed so many people. High in nutrients. They're high in nutrients. They're crazy high in vitamin C. If you look it up, they're really, really high in vitamin C. And I'm kind of getting to the point, like I could really like tell when my body, like if it's feeling good after I eat something, I'm getting a little more tuned into that as I develop as a human. And I feel great after I go in on a bunch of ripe jackfruit. I feel jacked up, like it was really good for me type thing. So, and it's actually my birthday tomorrow, so I'm about to go get me some jackfruit, and that's kind of my birthday gift to me because it's so great. So yeah, it's good for you, and it's delicious. So, number 4, it tastes delicious. So It's definitely on this list of the top 5. The jackfruit, however, once you become like me, it's like I've heard of like people becoming like kind of fruit snobs as they get way into it. I'm like, that's stupid. Fruit's good. Regardless, this fruit is so good that we can grow here in the subtropics. It is 100% true. You become kind of a fruit snob as you like get, deeper in the fruit game. So I will say jackfruit, there are some that are not good. There's one down the street from me and it was producing like crazy. I was like, holy crap, there's a huge jackfruit in her front yard. I left my card. I was like, hey, can I please have one of these jackfruits? I'll buy it from you, whatever it takes. Like, would really, really appreciate it. I see you have so many. And she calls me up and she's like, hey, like you could just have one. People are so nice. If you're just like, ask first, like, and all the time, everyone's just like, take whatever you want. It's amazing. People are nicer than, we think. I believe is my belief. So she gave me one and it ended up being gnarly. It was not good at all. Like this chick in Costa Rica I stay with, for a couple nights, she told me she had insane abundance, like hundreds of trees on this mountainside. Like her and her kids just live off the bananas. You know what I mean? Like she was like, there's nothing like a crappy jackfruit. And I was like, I know. Like when you have, so that I will say it tastes delicious for the most part. Again, sometimes you'll get a not so good one or one that wasn't, fully ripe in the wintertime. Happens sometimes. So just make sure you plant good varieties. So when you get those good varieties though, unbelievable. In Costa Rica, they actually called it mil sabores, I believe. Like one of the locals called it that. There's so many names for these things. And that means 1,000 flavors. Because it's just so like it's just so the depth of flavors is just ridiculous. So go get yourself a ripe jackfruit. And if you're setting up your food paradise down here in South Florida, put jackfruit trees in the ground, get some delicious varieties. So those two are great. That's a great start to the top 5. Number 3 on the list, I had to do it. It's avocado. You got to have the fats. You got to have it's so good. Like I think about how many avocados we go through in Palm Beach County a day. It's like freaking insane. People love avocados. I love avocados. It's so delicious, for whatever, vegan tacos, whatever you're into, your chicken eggs, perfect in so many applications. It's amazing. I don't think I have to convince anyone that avocado's a great one to have on deck, growing in your yard. So it grows great. It does grow well. You don't want it to grow in like a area where it floods. They don't like that. They like well-drained soil. So in a lot of these swampy areas in Florida, you probably wouldn't want to grow it. They're used to those drier, higher, plateau. I think that's why they grow well in Mexico. It's not like crazy rainy seasons like here in Florida. But they do grow well. So I will say that they don't look the prettiest. But if it's like kind of perched up and drains well, they'll grow. They'll do their thing. They'll grow pretty quick and produce pretty quick. So they grow well. They produce heavy for sure. And they have a long window of production. This is what I like about the avocado and the next one on the list too, actually. It has a long window of when you could harvest. Mangoes are sure thing, and they, you can get a ton of mangoes and freeze them and dehydrate them and just eat them up for like 2 or 3 months, like June to August, May to August. You get your mango season in. Avocados, you could have an avocado that fruits in July and an avocado that fruits in like January. So you could and then a bunch in between, most of them are October, November, kind of that time of year. But I mean, amazing ones that fruit in July, so you can have a longer window of harvesting. So, I like to have my fruits. That's why mulberry didn't make the list. I mean, mulberries are so good for you, crazy high in antioxidants. You could like eat the leaves on some of them. Like, mulberries are great, but I'm sorry, it didn't make the cut. It's only like 2 or 3 weeks you got mulberries. Yeah, there's some ever-bearing ones that'll produce in other times of year, but I mean, for the most part, it's like, that's it, man. You don't get a long window. They don't store for a long time. So, I mean, I love mulberries. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't make the top 5. So, avocados, on the other hand, they will keep on the tree for a long, long time. So it's like, and avocados are super impressive in that regard. They don't like ripen on the tree like some and then drop and then rot and then they're done and then you're screwed. And you missed your harvest window or whatever. They're pretty tough, man. So, it's cool. Like, I can go way deep into it, but my point is, in that regard, in the production, criteria, it has you could have 10 avocado trees, one that produces July, one that produces August, 2 that produce in, September. Like, you could get avocados every day for many months of the year, which is a beautiful thing. So this is the knowledge I want to bring to you guys, man, that we could grow avocados and cut down our grocery bill, man, and get some cut down the food miles. So avocados number 3, gotta have it. Number 4 on the list, I had to do it. It's Barbados cherry. There are some cherries that are way better than Barbados cherry. But again, if you have limited space, if you only have 5 fruit trees that you can choose from, I'd have to say Barbados. They grow so well. They produce, they have a long window. It's like early spring to late fall, pumping out fruits. Like, you could just not hold yourself back every day if you had enough trees and just go in on these. And then number 3 is probably the main reason why I chose this one. For the criteria is it's super high in nutrients. I mean, it's crazy high in vitamin C. It used to be like a natural, supplement. They might even still sell it in pharmacies and stuff, but I know for a fact it used to be the vitamin C source for people. It was like a natural. They call it acerola down in the Caribbean. So it's before they made absorbic acid in the laboratory or however they do it today. But so if you really want to grow your own medicine and, which food is medicine, right? You got to have your vitamin C, growing in your yard. So the more I look into it, the more, antioxidants, high antioxidants in your diet is, super important. You got to protect we don't have to go that deep, but vitamin C is you got to have it. And, it's high in citrus and it's, vitamin C is higher than even citrus, which is chill, which is that's where it's at. But I mean, citrus has a high in vitamin C, but they don't grow so hot anymore organically because the industry brought in all these issues, and we can go into that in another episode. But everyone wants a lime tree and everyone wants a lemon tree. Everyone comes to me and they say that I want a lemon. But it's just unfortunate they don't do well. Big Agra in Florida brought in all these problems. So anyways, if you want your vitamin C, you can't get it from, when you're from citrus anymore if you want to grow organically. So yeah, that's number 4, Barbados. They're great. They're delicious. They're just probably not as good as the Grumachama and some of the other Eugenia, but they freaking do their thing. And they're high in vitamin C. So that one made the list. Super long window of harvest. Again, mulberries are good for you too, but it's just got to be it's got to make all the criteria. I'm sorry. So number 5, and this one should have probably been number 1. This one's so obvious. You got to have banana. So that's that's my list: mango, jackfruit, avocado, Barbados cherry, and banana. I mean, banana's pretty obvious, it's super delicious. The varieties we have here in Florida too are insane. Like, if you let them tree ripen, it's the sweetest, most delicious banana in the world. I've been making nice cream like crazy, like, vegan nice cream out of frozen bananas that I grow. It's just out of this world. Like, and if you do smoothies every day like me every morning, you got to have bananas. So bananas are on the list for sure. They don't take up a lot of space, which is cool. They do need a lot of water and a lot of nutrients, unlike many other trees. But if you do it right and design it right, you could, keep a lot of that water on site, send it to your bananas, grow mulch on site, get it to your bananas. You could feed your bananas naturally, without bringing in all these freaking weird fertilizers from the big box stores. So you could do it, sustainably, obviously. And they produce year round, they keep coming. It's not like a season where you only have bananas for a month or two. They produce all the time. Some are more so. They grow great. They don't have pest issues really. At least, in my area. So bananas are on the list, man. So if you are looking for ideas on what trees to plant in your yard in South Florida, I hope that content helped. I mean, I went deep on these fruit trees. Again, there's so many. I mean, but these are the top 5. These are the ones I chose, and I feel good about it, man. A couple that were kind of probably missing were probably Sapodilla. That's an honorable mention. I'll throw that one in there. Black sapote. I love black sapote, but I don't know. You can't really get sick of these other fruits like you can maybe Sapodilla or black sapote. I don't know. They just didn't make the list. I would say those are the 5, man. So, I hope you enjoyed the fruit tree talk as much as me. I'm way into it. I mean, that's all I think about and do all day long. But I remember my friends Chip and Connor, we were on our way to the other coast to buy some plants last year. And we had this conversation, and it was super fun. And I just thought of it, and I figured I'd do a episode on it. And I think it brings a lot of value to you guys. If you guys have any other fruit trees you're thinking of, feel free to hit me up on Instagram or email me. Instagram at Urban Abundance FL. Let me know your take. Obviously this isn't across the board, and I'm sure everyone has their opinions, but this is what I would put in the ground. Maybe loquat could be up there too, but I don't know. I like the substantial fruits most, Canistel. But I don't know, man. These are heavy hitters. It's hard to compete. But yeah, I think I might, do veggies next episode. We'll see what's to come. I'm going to start, putting out these podcasts more regularly and just, trying to create a community that is really putting in the work to set up an abundant, sustainable lifestyle. As always, try to remember the 5 principles. Plant daily, support sustainable systems, school yourself, be solution oriented always, and bring the good vibes. That's where it's at, man. I hope you guys can incorporate that into your day today. And hey, much love. Until next time, my friends, let's create abundance together.